Hey guys, I'm Saurav. Welcome to the channel. Today I am talking about composition. To be more specific, I'm talking about mistakes in composition. Now, before we begin with the video, let's quickly understand what is composition. Composition is basically how you place the elements in your image. Like for example, I am an element in this particular frame. Right now I'm at the center. I can go a bit to the left, a bit to the right, a bit up or a bit down. So now I'm changing the placement of the element. I'm changing the composition. Photography is an art form and there's nothing right or wrong. It's all subjective. In this video, whatever I say, whatever feedback that I give, you might agree with some of it, you might not agree with some of it. And that is the beauty of photography. I'm sure you and we both will learn something or the other from this video. I'm super excited. This is one of my favorite topics to talk about. So without wasting any time, let's get started. Mistake number 1, shooting too tight. Your subject is the most important part of the image. I agree. But that doesn't mean the whole frame should be filled by the subject or majority of the area should be covered by the subject. See this image for example. I like the composition, but according to me, I would have liked a slightly wider composition where I could see more of the surroundings. This is the subject and this neighboring area is what we call as breathing space. Your images should have a bit of breathing space. Breathing space, also known as negative space, is very important in photography. It can give a sense of surroundings. It can help tell a story. If used properly, the breathing space can also guide the viewer's attention to the main subject. This is Mount Kirkjuvel. I'm trying my best to pronounce it. I could have shot just this portion of the mountain and it would still look okay. But now if I zoom out, I could see the waterfall. I could see the small water stream flowing down. These elements are complementing the main subject, that is the mountain. So next time you're shooting, don't only focus on the subject. See if including the neighboring elements can enhance the composition, can help convey the story, the emotions behind the image. Try it. It can give a new dimension to your images. Mistake number 2, positioning of the subject. In this particular image, the subject is to the left part of the image and it is almost touching the left part of the frame. There's no breathing space. How I would have composed this image is place the subject to the right lower third of the image and leave a bit of space to the left side. It's not about randomly placing the subjects in the left or the right side. There should be a reason, there should be a strong intention behind doing it. I shot this image last winter. The subjects in the image are walking in the right direction and hence I have composed it in a way where there's a bit of space to the right side. Why? This breathing space is helping the viewer to see where they're heading to. If you see carefully, these arrows are also helping the composition that I had in mind. There is intention, there is reason behind placing the subject to the left third of the image. Even in this image, the group of children are running towards this direction. So I've kept a bit of breathing space in order to understand where they are going. So instead of positioning them to the extreme right, I've positioned them to the left part of the image. Mistake number 3, not using the panorama technique. We all know how to capture a panorama. Just pan your camera in a certain direction, take the photos, combine them and you're done. And when we hear the word panorama, we think of super wide images. But panorama is not restricted to that. It is a very good technique to improve your composition. See this image. It's actually shot by one of my friends who had recently moved to Europe. Rajesh, I hope you're having a good time. I actually like the composition, but I would have liked to see a bit more of the ground in this picture. I would have preferred a slightly wider view. Maybe take a couple of steps back or use a wider lens, but sometimes it's just not possible. I was in a similar situation. The image you're seeing on the screen might not look like a panorama, but it is. I was shooting at the widest focal length possible for me, that is 14 mm, but I could not shoot the complete waterfall along with the foreground and the mountains. I simply merged those two images in Lightroom and now I'm not missing on any of the important elements. I should have taken a third shot where I had a bit more of the sky visible, but I did not. Lesson learned, always take at least 2 or 3 frames extra than you think you would need to achieve the final composition. If you shoot couple of frames extra, you're not going to regret it. Better be safe than sorry. I started using this panorama technique more recently on my Iceland trip, and I realized it's very simple but a super important technique. This can come very handy when you're using a drone. Since you're combining multiple images, you have that extra resolution, so you have more flexibility to crop and adjust your final composition. Next mistake is distracting elements. As I said initially, composition is what elements are you including in the frame and how are you arranging it. But composition is also what elements are you not including in the frame. Every element need not help your composition. Certain elements can also be distracting. I've seen images where there are a lot of elements and the viewer gets confused what is the actual subject. Composition should not be complicated. Now, how do you decide whether to include a certain element or not? Simple. Ask yourself the question, is this element helping my composition? In this image, these two subjects are in focus and this one is out of focus. Personally for me, I don't have the problem with the subject being out of focus, but the out of focus subject is distracting because it's covering the subject in focus. I would have liked to see the subject in focus more clearly. This image, I like the composition. Very simple, good use of negative space, out of focus elements. One thing if I had to pick is this particular part that is out of focus is a bit distracting because it's at the center of the face. I would have slightly moved my model or the branch to get it out of the way. Now these are the small details that you need to pay attention. These small things collectively makes a huge difference. Mistake number 5, underestimating the crop tool. We all have heard this while learning photography that you should get everything right in camera. But most of the times getting everything right in camera is not possible, and that is why post-processing is so important. One of the most basic tools for post-processing that we often take for granted is the crop tool. Depending on how you crop your images, it can make a drastic difference in the composition. For this image, I wanted a cinematic look, a widescreen look. I'll straighten the image, click here to unlock it so that I'm not following any particular aspect ratio. I'll crop out the top part and go for a wide look. Just with a simple crop, the image already looks much better to me. Now, if I throw in a preset and make some minor adjustments, you have a cinematic looking wide image that gives a bit of Gotham City vibes. Here's the image without the crop and here's the image with the crop. According to me, the crop makes a huge difference. A lot of people like to stick with one aspect ratio, like 4:5 for Instagram. And there's nothing wrong about it. For Instagram, 4:5 is a very good aspect ratio. But always sticking to one aspect ratio can hamper your creativity. This image is of Doki River from Meghalaya. I wanted to capture the boat along with the clear water that the river is famous for. I was using a drone and I wanted the boat to be perfectly aligned with the drone, but that did not happen. And I also have this second boat which is a bit distracting for me. I will just straighten the image with respect to the boat, crop the edges, minor corrections, and that's it. The image looks much better now. Before you make any advanced corrections, any color corrections to your images, make sure you have got the crop right. Practicing the art of cropping is very essential and it will come very handy as a photographer. Mistake number 6, not self-analyzing. Certain compositions work for you, certain don't. The ones that work for you are important, but the ones that don't are actually more important. We go through all these images and we select the images that we like and we just discard the images that we don't like. Before you discard those images, analyze them. See what mistakes are you making. Once you start analyzing, you will understand the patterns, the mistakes that you make in composition. And it's very important because when you're doing this, you're actually training your subconscious mind. So next time you're shooting, you're not going to make these mistakes. But this will only happen if you have taken the efforts, if you have given the time in the first place. This might sound like a small tip, but according to me, this is the most important tip. Try it, put efforts, and you will see the difference. That's it from the video, guys. I hope you learned something from the video. As I said in the beginning, art is subjective. Everything that I've said in the video, it's not necessary to agree with it. You are a different individual and that is what makes you, your art, so special. I hope you enjoyed the video, guys, and if you did, press the like button. Subscribe to the channel, make sure you have pressed the bell icon. Let's reach 1 million subscribers as soon as possible. I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Bye. before you okay before you okay before you make the okay before you make okay